What's up, y'all? It's Malachi, CEO and founder of Visualizedbymal, partner of Who Visualized You. I'm here with a clutch CEO, business professional, audio engineering guru, marketing strategist. Man, this man has many titles. I've known him for a long time. Mr. Samori Coles, how are you?
Oh, I'm good, brother. Real good, man. I appreciate being on the show. Congratulations on the show and all of your success, man. You're buzzing on these Philly streets, bro.
Thank you, man. This is my first ever episode. I couldn't think of anybody else who I would need to have on this show immediately. This is of urgency today. So tell me more about you. What are you working on right now?
Oh, man, what am I working on? Well, I'll tell you, for starters, I'm a music entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. You know, I founded Little Drummer Boy Recordings more than 20 years ago. And we are a full service recording studio that offers classes in audio engineering, music production, and the music business. And so, you know, again, started this brand over 20 years ago. And within the last couple years, we have pivoted, right? So we still offer phenomenal audio recording services. But fortunately, with our partnership with Who Visualized You, your company, we now are in the content creation space. So we are developing and producing incredible content for other entrepreneurs out there who want to grow their brands online, who need that impactful media. We're doing it right here at Little Drummer Boy Recordings.
Absolutely. And you talk about others needing impactful media. And your social media game has been top notch recently. And being in business for over 20 years and pivoting, I'm sure your dream or vision has changed over time. So tell me about what your original dream was with Little Drummer Boy Recordings. You know, tell me about how you ended up in such a soulful place.
Oh, wow. That's a great question. Well, I'll tell you, I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska. That's where I was born and raised. And I always loved the creative arts. So I played the drums from a very early age. I grew up at a time where in elementary school, you played instruments, right? So I started with the violin in probably the second grade, went on to the trumpet, and eventually by the sixth grade settled on the drums. So I've always loved to play instruments. Not only that, I've been writing songs since I was 7 years old. So I always had this kind of creative spirit, this creative energy. However, growing up in Omaha, Nebraska at that time, you know, there really was no outlet to develop a career in the creative arts. Yeah. So even though I loved it, you know, I was in every talent show I could be in, was in a few plays coming up, loved it. The idea of a career in entertainment or in the arts just wasn't even something that I was even thinking about. So I went the traditional route, you know. Let me say that again. And graduated from high school, went to college, Creighton University in Omaha, Nebraska, and graduated with degrees in marketing and finance. And came out of college, got a job as a financial analyst, and everybody was excited. I mean, that's the path, right? They're like, oh, you're on course, you know, you're going to be great. You're going to work all these years, go to grad school, maybe get your pension. But my soul felt empty. That didn't really feel like what I wanted to do. So I would go to work every day at Union Pacific Railroad. I was a financial analyst there. And I would sit in this cubicle and I would crunch numbers, and I would sit up and think, wow, can I do this for the next 50 years? And it just felt like, man, I don't know how this is going to work out. Well, anyway, at the same time, this is like the mid 90s, 95. Some of my boys from the old neighborhood were building home studios. They had little home studios with cassette recorders and Casio keyboards and drum machines. It was very rudimentary by today's standards. But from the very first time I set foot in one of those recording sessions, I knew that making music is what I was going to do for the rest of my life. And we ended up making some songs in one of my buddies' home studios, and it ended up getting on the radio back home. And even though I knew nothing about the music industry, I was like, this is what I'm going to do. Yeah. So we weren't making any money. We had a local hit called To Whom It May Concern, which led to a couple more songs on the radio, which led to me co-producing other songs on the radio. But again, I was in a market where there was no outlet, and I didn't know what to do. I had no business sense, didn't understand the music business at all. Well, long story short, in less than 2 years of graduating from college, I jumped on a Greyhound bus, man, and I came out to the East Coast. And it was a crossroads in my life because, you know, while I was at Union Pacific, I applied to get into graduate school at the Wharton School in Philly. I didn't know at the time that it was considered one of the top business schools in the world, but I was accepted. I got in.
Yeah.
Again, everybody around me was excited. I wasn't. To me, that was not something that was like the prize for me.
Yeah.
Because I was so invested in creating music. I didn't know anything about building a brand at that time, but I know how I felt when I made music.
Yeah.
I know how I felt when I was in that environment with other creatives. So I did end up coming out to the East Coast, but I never stepped foot on Wharton's campus.
Never.
I did not set foot on Wharton's campus. I decided that I was going to pursue this career in the music industry. If I said it didn't come without a lot of disappointing stares and disapproval from the people in my life, I would be lying, because it came with a lot of just personal struggle, because a lot of people didn't understand that move.
Yeah.
You know, when you're a creative, when you're artistic, when you just are a visionary and an entrepreneur, most people can't understand that. So you make decisions that to other people seem irrational.
Yeah.
So that's a long story long, but that is ultimately was the beginning that led me to where we are right now.
Oh, man. So you just talked a lot about fulfillment and about not having fulfillment. And for me, I mean, I just became a full-time entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for 6-7 years, but I want to talk back on the word you used was prize. And you felt like something was missing and you had a goal. 27 years later, have you reached the prize? Have you found the prize? Did you figure out what the prize is?
You know, that's a very, very good question. I will say this, I'm going to answer this two ways. I still have goals that I want to achieve.
Yeah.
Right? But I've come to the conclusion that the prize is happiness. That the prize is peace, happiness, and freedom. You know, and that is every day I just try to just continue to get closer to that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm married, my beautiful wife, Uva. I have 2 boys, little Samori and Zion. And the world to me is all about their health, their wellness, our health as a family, my mom, our extended family. It's all about those things.
Yeah.
And once life became about that to me, everything around business and the creative and all of that, it became much less of a rat race and much less of something I'm chasing. And it really became about, man, the prize is being happy, man, being healthy.
At what point of your career did you start realizing that that's what it was about? Was it once you had children, or?
It wasn't once I had children. Initially, like I said, when I got started, there was a lot of disapproval from people who were in my life, friends that I had, even to the point of maybe even shame, I felt like sometimes people wanted me to feel shameful for the decision I made to be a creative, to leave this 9-to-5 career as a financial analyst, right? To decide not to go to Wharton. It wasn't looked at as a power move. And so for years I was fueled by wanting to prove people wrong.
Yeah.
So a long time, that was how I was driven. I'm going to prove them wrong. I'm going to prove them wrong. And some people can be fueled by that. I think I was fueled by that, but it wasn't the healthiest space for me. Then I got to a space where I think a lot of people are, where you start to compare where you're at to what other people are doing.
Yeah.
And especially in this social media realm, where people are looking like they're doing these amazing things. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. And it's easy to get into the comparison game. So I think I went through a period of, man, I'm just not doing what this other person is doing, or I'm not doing what I need to do. I think when things started changing for me is the more I started to understand marketing and strategy. And instead of looking outward, I just looked inward.
Yeah.
And I said, this is my plan. This is my strategy. This is how I'm going to market it. And each day became about executing. That's when it changed. That's when I focused internal, it all started to change for me in terms of how I was defining success or what I thought kind of making it was. That's when it changed for me.
Absolutely. There's a book called Think Like a Monk. Mm-hmm. And one of the key premises is the 3 C's. And they're called the cancers of the mind. And it's criticism, comparison, and complaining. And I think that as an entrepreneur, it's probably very easy to not think like a monk, or damn near impossible in this world that we talk about with constant comparison. And for me, I feel like I could relate to you on the part of the shame and being looked at as, what are you doing? What plays are you making? I'm at my third HBCU, man. I started off at FAMU, went to Howard. Now I'm at Lincoln, and people are like, Howard to Lincoln, what the, and it's like, hold on now. And then I almost found myself at a point of wanting to prove people wrong. But now I'm almost at a point now where I've gotten to the point of loving the story and the journey of where it's led me, and using what I've learned from taking a non-traditional or a different path and wearing it on your sleeve almost. Like, tell me about that. Your story has been nothing of the traditional, hey, your mom gave you $200,000, you went and bought a building,
Right.
You grinded from the bottom up. So talk about the price that you had to pay to get to this peace and happiness. This is where you are now. You had to pay a hefty price for where you are.
I mean, it has been blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
Which is why when you told me about your pivot, going from the 9 to 5 and going full-time creative entrepreneur, I said, man, while I'm proud of you for that decision, it's not something that I would encourage someone to do.
Yeah.
That's not me saying not to do it. It's saying that I know what that journey is.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be responsible for the scars, because there's going to be some. You know what I mean? But
yeah, definitely.
But for me, initially, it was a lot of kind of emotional turmoil, because again, I didn't feel like a lot of people believed in me. I felt a little bit of that shame that I was telling you. I didn't have the skills I needed. I didn't understand the music business. When I think back now, it was a bit irrational, but I was just driven by a knowing.
Yeah.
I was driven by a knowing, right? So even when I didn't have the best recording equipment, being a music producer and an audio engineer, when my skills as a performer weren't the greatest, right?
Yeah.
I didn't see it that way. I always saw what the future was going to be, and I wasn't paying attention to what was going on at the moment, and that really helped me. So it started out kind of the emotional issues, and then definitely the financial issues, because once you decide you're not going to work a 9 to 5 anymore, you got to pay the bills, and your art has to help you pay the bills.
Yeah.
And so I went through the evictions, the eviction notices, the car repossessions, and I when I got married, and I was an artist from the time I got married and had children, my wife had to make a lot of sacrifices. It has definitely been a lot of sacrifice, but it's sacrifice on top of a knowing, on top of believing that this is possible.
Yeah.
Right. And I've taken the time. So as a music creator, the people that are the greatest influence on me have never been music creators. Yeah. They've been entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
They've been Warren Buffett. They've been, Jeff Bezos, right? They've been people who have started with very little and have built these major brands, because I knew if they could do it, I could do it too. So a lot of the training that I was doing, in addition to becoming a better musician and becoming a great audio engineer, I was learning how to become a marketer.
Yeah.
How to become a better entrepreneur. I'm glad you talked about Think Like a Monk. I haven't read that. I need to read that. But one book that changed my business and my outlook was The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber.
Mm-hmm. You gave me that book.
See?
You gave me that book. I went to LA and I read that book. And that book now is probably the reason why I have a team. Mm-hmm. So that's a great book, because I found myself trying to do everything in my business. I mean, if you haven't read The E-Myth talks about a reality that many entrepreneurs live in, of trying to be their business in every way, of being the manager, the technician, and the person with the dream. So, I mean, at one point of your business, you were all three.
Yeah, at one point I was all three. I was recording all the sessions, producing all the music. You know, like I said, we train audio engineers and music producers.
Yeah.
I was doing the training, and it was a cycle of burnout and ascension, and that's what happens when you just try to do everything. You can't do everything.
Right.
And so what I learned from the E-Myth was, listen, there's 3 levels to this entrepreneurial game. There's the technician who does the frontline work. There's the manager who makes sure the processes are in order. And then there's the entrepreneur who's the visionary, right? As the entrepreneur, if you're working in your business, you don't have time to work on your business.
Yeah, not at all.
And so that knowledge really changed things. So, and entrepreneurs like the great Robert Smith, you know, and Robert Johnson. And I would look at these great business owners, Madam C.J. Walker. You know, I could go on and on. These are, since I didn't have the direct mentors and the direct coaches, these became my mentors.
Right.
These became my coaches, reading their books, understanding what they're doing. Gary V, you know, the great social media influencer, a lot of the things that he talks about. Alex Hormozy, who's a great marketer. So even being a music creator, I was studying these people because I was trying to understand, how am I going to build my brand to a level where I can support my family and then some, where I can have the financial freedom for my family and then some, where I can build that intergenerational wealth and then some. And I realized it was through the business. So even though there was a lot of ups and downs and trials and tribulations, I believed, because I never stopped learning and never stopped seeing examples of what the possibilities are.
Yeah. And as a Black man, how many of these entrepreneurs have you met in person and got to pick their brain out of everyone that you just named?
None of them.
None of them. And that's to tell you that we all have access. We all have access to learn. And that reminds me of another book I love by Napoleon Hill called Outwitting the Devil. And it just talks about the excuses that we make up in the mind. And many times we talk about not having the right mentors or the right coaches or the right resources. But we all have access in the world that we live in today to learn. And I just want to touch on the point that if you feel like the table that you have around you isn't the right people, it's your job to put the right people at the table, regardless if you know them or not. It's about the information that you're pumping into your own brain on a daily basis. So Samori talks about this inner knowing, and once he had that knowing, he employed the information to himself, right?
Absolutely.
That just tells me that if you really want something bad enough, you got to learn.
Yeah, the knowledge is there. The knowledge is out there. I mean, we have the internet, which has a world and a wealth of knowledge at your disposal.
Yeah.
You know, you have places like YouTube, of course, which obviously is on the internet, but there's really no excuse for not having the knowledge.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of investing in mentorship, investing in coaching, investing in mastermind programs.
Right.
Like I said, like a big part of the last 6 years for me has been taking a deep dive into marketing. One of my college degrees is in marketing.
Yeah.
But for the past 6 years, I have delved deep into the world of digital marketing and have come out the other side a marketing strategist for creatives. Right?
Absolutely.
Where, you know, I consult creatives on everything from running Facebook and Instagram ads, YouTube and Google ads, overall just marketing strategy, building funnels, building landing pages, you know, email marketing, because that was the piece I was missing for so long.
Yeah.
And in all of the many students I've had a chance to train and mentor and guide, I would teach them the creative parts of things, right? I would teach them the audio engineering. I would teach them the music production, and they would get very proficient. But then there was that piece missing.
Yeah.
Where if they wanted to start their own business, how was that going to be successful?
Yeah.
So in addition to teaching the music business for what it is, right? Everything from copyright and publishing and all of that, we're teaching like marketing, hardcore marketing, right? So I've invested in, like I say, mastermind programs. I've trained under Rudy Moore, who's done work with Floyd Mayweather and some really huge brands out there. Onyx and Gall, Frank Kern. These are just some marketing folks out there who have really changed the game in terms of what digital marketing means. And so that marketing also has led me to launch a platform called Fire.ai, which is a marketing tool for creatives that helps them to automate a lot of their business processes and utilize marketing tools like email marketing, funnel building, even using AI to really grow and develop their brands. So that learning that you talk about, that learning that I've done, I applied it to my business. And now because I didn't have the mentors and the coaching, I like to give that back and pay that forward to creatives that are coming up behind me.
Well, I'm here to say you've been paying it forward for sure, because we just employed Fire.ai in my business, and it's been a success for me. I've been able to employ an entire system into my company that my company never had. And I still want to know from you what your goal is with Fire.ai. How does that help our people? What is it that small businesses and Black businesses are missing, and why do they need Fire.ai?
Well, thank you for that question, man. Fire.ai provides a system. A lot of times when we start out in businesses as creatives, as entrepreneurs of any kind, we don't have systems or strategies. And so what Fire.ai is a complete marketing and organizational system that helps creatives or entrepreneurs at large, first off, have a CRM, which stands for Customer Relationship Manager, where all of the contacts they're meeting, all of the clients that they develop over the years, all of those people come into one system, one database, where they've got these people's names, their phone numbers, their email addresses. So no more just trying to remember people's numbers, write their numbers down, take their business cards, put them in your phone, but forget where they are.
Yeah.
That information comes into a system where you can categorize them based on where you met them. You can tag them based on the type of business you've done with them. But then furthermore, you can automate your communications with them. So imagine you meet somebody out at a networking event, you're having a great time communicating, you put them in your system, and now immediately they get a text and say, hey, it's Visualized by Mal. It was great to meet you. I'm looking forward to following up with you, right? But then what Fire.ai takes it a step further, where now it has a built-in calendar system, where now when you ask people to follow up with them, you can give them a link to your calendar. They can go to it, book conveniently with you. So that's another thing you don't have to worry about. And then if you are a service-based creator where you're charging people for your time, you can actually require payment on that calendar. So if you're charging $50 an hour, or you're charging however much you charge, you can give them the link to that calendar, but then when they go to the calendar, they have to pay to get access to you.
These are all systems that I've employed into my business. I love it.
Yeah, they're all systems. And then another thing, that communications piece. So all of us have social media profiles on many different places. What Fire.ai does is brings all of your social media accounts into one place, so that on one app, you're able to see all that communication is coming in from all these places, from your emails, from your texts, from your Instagram, from your Facebook, all these places, and communicate in one convenient place. So no longer are you having to go to TikTok, go to Instagram. And so that communication piece is invaluable. So those are just a couple of just the many advantages that the Fire.ai system is bringing to creatives. But again, it's a complete marketing and business operations system, which so many entrepreneurs are missing.
Absolutely. And with that being said, y'all, this is the first episode of the Visualized by Mal podcast, brought to you here at Lil Drummer Boy Recordings by Who Visualized You. Samori, it's been an absolute honor and pleasure having you on this episode. Thank you again.
Thank you, man. It's my honor, man. I appreciate being the inaugural guest, man. I'm looking forward to some great things, man, in our partnership.
Absolutely.
All right, my brother.